Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Today is August 11th, and this is another of our bi-weekly SIG CLI meeting. My name is Maciej, and I'll be your host today. Our agenda is full packed with announcements, with topics, so let's get to it right away. But before we do, introductions. I know we have new people on the call. Now is your time to introduce yourself. Say who you are, what you're expecting from SIG CLI, where we can help you with PRs, issues, any kind of requests. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I will go first. My name is Lakshmikant, and I'm working as a software engineer with Operator Framework. So there is one PR that I wanted to discuss with this ISCD already added in topics.
Welcome. Nice to see
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Are there any other new folks? Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. I'm Yuwen from Google. I worked for Google for over 5 years. My interest is on customized. I joined Kubernetes about 2 years ago, and I have a cap about rebasing the Kubernetes images to distros. And also I contribute to Klog before. Yeah, that's me.
Welcome. Glad you joined. Anyone else new?
Hello. Hi, I'm Bilal. I'm from India and I'm working as a software developer with an Indian startup right now. I'm very new to Kubernetes community. I've only contributed 2 years right now, till now. And yeah, this is my first time attending this meeting. So.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else new? Looking through the list, I see at least one more name.
I'm new. My name is Ross Peoples. I'm in the United States, Nebraska, actually. And I just recently joined Red Hat to help out with some of the Kubernetes related developments. And right now I'm sort of focused on the CLI tools and working with Maciej and you know, just trying to get up started and get going.
Welcome, Ross. Okay, do we have anyone else new? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the announcement. So if you haven't seen it, 1.23 Kubernetes release schedule is out. I linked it in the agenda. If you want to check the dates, feel free to do so. The release date for the 1.23 is at the beginning of December. More details are in this document from the link. Additional one, the KubeCon North America 2021 in LA. The schedule is also out. It was published earlier this week. We have a session. Jeff, Eddie, and Katrina are going to walk us through where we've been, where we are, and where we're heading to. I linked their session in that agenda. KubeCon will be both virtual and in person for those that can join. So the best of both worlds for all the people. And Sean added the Contributor Summit NA North America, which is part of KubeCon, is also happening. Although there's one caveat, Contributor Summit is limited to only the Kubernetes org members. So if you're a Kubernetes org member, you can join the event. If not, then unfortunately, you won't be able to join this one due to limitation.
That's
Eddie,
just in person too. So if you want to attend virtually, you are more than welcome.
correct. Sean, did I miss anything?
No, that was it. Sounds like so far they're going to do it's still going to be in person in Los Angeles. Obviously there's been some doubts because of the rise in COVID, but as of now, there's still an in-person component.
Yeah, as far as I understand from yesterday in the Leeds meeting, it will be happening as long as LA says it can. So if the city of LA decides, nope, LA Convention Center is closed, then it won't be. Otherwise, it will. So the other thing I wanted to ask real quick. So when I put together our SIG CLI CFP session, one of the things I wanted to call out in there is how we test kube control. I don't think we've done talking about like our end-to-end testing and like any of that framework stuff we do. So if anyone has any other ideas for what would be beneficial for a maintainer track session, please let us know.
Okie doke. Let's move on to the main topics. Sean, I assume you added the first one.
I did.
So go ahead.
So this PR was assigned to me, although it affects everybody. So I wanted more eyes on it. So that's the only reason I brought this up. Was I'm hoping to get the rest of SIG CLI's expertise to ensure that this is necessary and correct. The author has split mutexes into two. And so if anybody has some expertise in this particular field and would like to have a look, I would appreciate the extra set of eyes.
Can you give a high level TLDR what this is about? Sorry.
It's about caching. So he adds an extra set of mutexes, the author, for the discovery client and the REST mapper, or the client config. So he splits that out instead of using the same mutex for both of those structures. It's actually not that big of a PR. And yeah, all of the tests passed, but I think that there is a lot of subtlety here. And so that's why an extra set of eyes, extra sets of eyes would be great.
Okay, I'll definitely have a look at it.
Do you think it's reasonable for us to ask for benchmark testing as well to show before and after the change?
I think he mentioned, I just read it somewhere, that he was testing this and he hasn't seen too much of a change.
So that, correct. So he said that there's 125 API calls when there's the inability to write to a caching directory, and that this PR, he didn't actually see a reduction in that. He said that would require another PR for in-memory caching.
I'm not sure about the in-memory part because we are, I think, the majority are using on disk one. I just outlined the part where he said that he wasn't able to reduce the number of API calls. But the general direction seems reasonable. Like you said, Sean, I'll probably, the devil is in the details, so probably we'll need to make sure that because he is splitting the lock separately for reading the config and separately for getting the discovery, which theoretically, as I'm thinking, should not be a problem. In majority of the cases that I can think of, that shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, be careful.
Yeah, especially because of the extra set of mutexes. I think it would be, which are difficult to test. He's claiming a deadlock, which maybe we should reproduce if that's the case.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I'll definitely check it out, but that will be sometime next week. I'm out for the rest of this week, so.
Yeah, I don't think there's any particular hurry, and I've told the author that we're going to take our time with this since it is so widely used.
Okay, yeah. I like his statement, and he's very energetic about the improving the performance, which is a good thing. With the proliferation of CRDs, the discovery operations are becoming more and more expensive. At some point in time, I was even considering the ability to increase the time between how long a cache is valid, and only because there are several operations where we explicitly invalidate the cache and force the command to read the entire discovery information. If I remember correctly, that's API versions and I think even API resources, where we explicitly invalidate. Maybe we could provide a command for the invalidation, or somehow provide a configuration option to tell how long you are okay without reading the discovered information, because that may be beneficial for some use cases. And I'm pretty confident that in some cluster that shouldn't be changing that much.
So especially with the CRDs and adding types to the cluster, you need to, grab the REST mapper again if you're going to be using a REST mapper. And there's a lot of actually ugliness there, because the reset for the REST mapper is not within the REST mapper interface. It's actually within the lower level concrete class or struct, the caching REST mapper or something. And so you actually have to downcast, which is really, really dangerous, downcasting from an interface down to a concrete type. Anyway, there's some subtlety, and there may be further cleanups necessary or desirable.
So does get pods takes 125 API calls in the cache hit case, in the common case, or just in the cache miss case?
I'm pretty sure it's in this case where where the author didn't have a writable cache directory.
I see.
Or in a case where this is your first get call.
Right. Yeah, definitely the cache miss case is super slow. But is this a common case?
As I mentioned, as Maoche mentioned, it's the first time, and then if you don't have a writable cache directory, then it's going to happen every time.
Yeah.
Yes. So okay. So it's a common case for that particular subcase.
Yeah. Well, the author is mentioning the non-writable case, especially in the case where we are working with a container. So you have a kubectl inside of a container, and you not necessarily have to have a writable directory, or you don't have a home set properly, and it's picking some kind of a temporary, which might be slow or whatever.
The in-cluster config, I think, is a good example of when you're in a container.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, definitely, Eddie. That's a good call to have a Jordan double check after us on this one as well. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Added by Eddie. Eddie, you want to talk about this one?
Yes. So there are a few PRs that have been. I'm echoing. Is that me?
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, that's Sean. Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, better.
There are a few PRs that we need to take a look at. It's been a little bit. This first one that you have open here is adding. So if you have a path configured for your kube config for your API server. So let's say that you have a proxy set up that like /Kubernetes will go to your API server. That will not work when you're running kube control proxy. It kind of ignores that path when doing that. So this could be considered a bug. It's also the behavior now, so I don't think we can change it. So the author created this PR to add a new flag to opt in to that behavior. And I think the holdup was we said it was kind of like a specific thing. We asked for like more context. And I know that we have someone from the operator framework now who also ran into this. So you want to provide more light there?
I guess that's basically what I was
yeah,
looking
for like,
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, continue, you can go ahead.
No,
The
no, go
same
ahead.
behavior happened with the operator SDK as well, when like user is using RKE cluster and they found like path in base path in there and went through the same issue. For time being, we fix the issue like temporary, where we are throwing an error for base path. So we are looking for this PR to get merged.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, the only concern that I had when I looked at it last time was basically, I was curious how many people are actually affected by this. If there are more people being affected by it, then probably it's only a matter. I remember looking at the PR. Overall, it looked reasonable. So the shape of this PR is acceptable. I would have to double check if I want to do a pan server path or just server path, but that's a minor thing. But I guess if there are more people, and it's just, my initial concern was that this was like solving one person problem only. But if there are more people, then definitely that's worthy of returning, and I'll add that one to my list for next week as well in that case. And I'll make sure to review both of these overall.
Anyway, this is I am taking a look right now because I remember this one. It's a flag one, so it shouldn't have any huge impact, right? We're not changing default behavior here.
No. No, my only concern usually with every single command is growing the number of flags. We had this problem with run in the past, where, oh, we're just added yet another flag, yet another flag, yet another flag. And if you pick kube color run, I don't know, from 114, 115, around that time, the amount of flags was about 2 pages, and I have a reasonably small font in my terminal, but it was still taking about 2 pages because there were so many different flags, which on top of that, every different combination of flags resources you specify was producing different outputs. And it was very hard for me as the author and other folks that were maintaining the code to justify this. and similarly for users to figure out what the output will be. And we've agreed over a couple of discussions that it would be better if we try to simplify the commands and push, instead of using run, push people towards using create commands. And I still keep in my at the back of my head whenever making a decision on any new flag, that if this is solving just one case, I'm not sure if it's worth to add one flag for one person for one single case, because if there will be 100 people with 100 use cases, we'll end up easily with 100 different flags for simple command. If this is only solving their one particular case. If there's a broader people affected by a particular problem, I don't see a problem with that. So that's where I'm usually trying to justify whether we do or do not want to add new flags to the commands, especially if you can always either pipe the commands together and add them, or directly modify through kubectl edit afterwards, if it's possible, because there are some cases where you can't edit a resource after it was submitted. For example, pod, once you submit it, there's only a few fields that you can modify on it. So yeah.
I just saw that.
Thanks.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just thinking for the explanation.
Yeah, there's a lot of scarring, I'm sure, Mache. Thank you for sharing. I saw that Rancher and the Container Lens folks also ran into this. So I'd say it's not just a one-person thing.
I mean, in those cases, because that basically is what we discussed a couple weeks or even months ago, where we've all basically agreed that if a new feature will have a sufficient number of supporters or people that are affected by it, then we will accept it, and we can run forward with adding such a feature. If a particular case is having minimal impact, then we either wait for further information or we don't accept it. And I was waiting for additional info on this one. So at this point in time, I think it's pretty safe to say that, yeah, just get it off the table and should be merged, should to merge. And the other one will be this one.
So this is adding create a certificate authority. It looks fine to me, and that Ricardo looked at it. I had one question on the thread. There is, if you go to the files changed, a little more. Okay, that one. So this that hard-coded ca.cert string, that was just a question about should this be a API type, because all the other core v1 TLS cert key above it, they're all API types. And Ricardo's thing was also, if this is just a constant, we can refactor later if we make that decision. So.
That seems like, I mean, does it mean that we already have that constant for the CA.CRT?
Yeah, go ahead, Eddie.
The constant is there, but the constant variable name is completely different than the use case here.
Okay.
So the constant name was service account root CA key, which it's the string we want, but that variable doesn't make any sense to use here.
Oh, I know what you mean. So I would be curious about their particular use case, and why would you be adding the CA in the first place?
I can explain this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as an Ingress maintainer, yeah, so usually you have to create, you have like authentication, client authentication with into Ingress, and you need to put like the CA as an example. You may want that for other things, like I want to provide the CA for like the full chain for the Ingress controller into the secret. Like I want to have the private key, the public key, and also provide the full chain. So it's this one it's reasonable.
Okay.
There is an issue, yeah.
Yeah, I just scrolling through that one. I would have to, but it looks reasonable. I haven't looked at the actual implementation details. Actually, the flag name, I would be okay with SCA. If you go through any of the OpenSSL or general tooling, they are using consistently cert key and CA pretty much everywhere. If I remember correctly, OpenSSL has a CA subcommand around that, so that should work. I would have to just check if the rest of the code seems somewhat reasonable, but overall, I think it should be fine. Yeah, I'll add that one to my list. It should be pretty quick PR to review.
Yeah, it looks good to me, so shouldn't take too long.
Okay. Okie doke. I guess that's all the topics. Does anyone have any issues, topics, concerns that I want to discuss with the group?
I forgot to put in the agenda, but I am concerned about the cap of the exit code that I own. As everybody knows, I'm pretty busy with my new day job, and I'm not able to follow up with every question or even with the implementation. So I guess that at least I want to take a look into the comments that message did with that, and maybe someone, when this got accepted, someone follow up with the implementation.
Yeah, I think I can sync with Ross, and we can somehow help you push this one through.
Cool.
Ross, what do you think?
I just don't want to like abandon this one. Sorry, folks. That's it.
No, that's perfectly fine, Ricardo. That's good that you're bringing this up. That you're not able, instead of just abandoning, you're admitting that you just don't have the time. That's perfectly okay. Thank you very much for that one. And I'll sync with Ross, and we will try to follow up on helping you with the cap itself, and then with the implementation. It's definitely not something that has to land within the next release. That has to land within the next release is something that I was and I still have on my list, which is kubectl events. That I was hoping that the SIG UX will help us with, and after cap day disappeared, there is a already implementation, and I'm hoping that it will be something that will be able to work in 123. Okay, well, definitely I'll add a note here.
And I've been tagging you on any sort of issues that come up for exit code stuff, Ricardo. I'll start tagging the cap instead, so it's tracked there. I just realized I'm not doing that.
Cap,
yeah, but I've been adding as well, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry, say that again.
I've been adding every time that you tag me. I usually try to remember to add into the cap.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, definitely. Or instead of the cap itself, maybe it's sometimes useful to point to the issue behind the cap, because cap tend to be closed, and the issue will be open for a little bit longer. Okie doke. Anyone else have any other topics? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the stand-ups. Katrina, Natasha.
Or yeah, Katrina, you can go ahead. Or
I don't think I have anything particular to report. So Natasha, if you've got something, go for it.
Just that last week or 2 weeks, was it last week, we had our first customized bug scrub that Katrina organized, which went very smoothly. It was super productive. And Jeff also is working on supporting anchors, which is a very popular feature request. And other than that, I think there's just a few KEPs being drafted that we might see over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I guess something that reminds me, we've been talking about among customized maintainers is that some of the time we want like a bigger explanation of a feature that's being proposed for customized that doesn't really have SIG wide relevance. It's just a very customized specific thing. But in the past, sometimes we've asked for a KEP or just an issue. We're thinking about making a sort of a KEPs directory inside customized for things like that that are fairly small in scope, and then having it so that kind of creates this middle ground where it's easier to discuss line by line a proposal that needs more detail than it would be on an issue, but we don't have to subject it to the whole formal KEP process for something that isn't really big enough to warrant that. If anyone has any thoughts on that, I'm going to be working on that next week, so let me know.
Eddie, do you remember? I can't remember what was it called. I think when we talked with Laurie, she mentioned something like architecture design review, something like that, or maybe I was talking with someone else. It was like lightweight type of a KEPs thing where you have a document that just have the design written down for future people to look at, and just like basically what Katrina proposed. Maybe there's even something that is describing that. I'll try to find it, Katrina, and I'll send you the link to what I think I meant. I'll Google it up.
Yeah, I sent Katrina all that when we talked about it before. I can dig it up. It's probably in our conversation if you scroll back, Katrina. The idea of the embedded KEPs I liked because I saw other people did it as well. So there are a few other sub projects that had like their own embedded KEPs. So.
And one thing that I intend to do in there as part of the template, because we can evolve it separately from the main one, is like have a specific section about implications for kubectl customized to make sure that people are thinking about that. And if there is something big there, then suggest the KEP template will suggest that it actually be promoted to an enhancements KEP, because anything that affects kubectl customized is going to be of broader interest.
Yes, I was close. That's the thing that I was thinking of.
Thank you.
And you found it. So yeah, I'm definitely in full support of following this way. Something that will be lightweight, something that will leave a track, allow you to proceed with your work, and doesn't block you, because the KEPs are pretty heavy as they are today, but they are serving a slightly different purpose.
Great.
Nick, do you have any updates on customize? Sorry, Kui.
Not too much. We're a bit midstream. Just wanted to mention briefly that the user studies that we briefly talked about last time are still underway. We couldn't quite get enough finished to present anything today, but hopefully next time Cora will be ready to present that. If we've been focusing on kubectl versus OpenShift console, this is not to choose any particular villains or or victors. These just seem two open source projects that were nice to compare to each other. If you guys have any other ideas of participants, in this battle, let me know. But this is our initial focus, and we're not focusing on KUI per se, but KUI will be kind of a vehicle for exploring how we can enhance both, sort of bring them towards a common medium. But the main focus is on those two. So hopefully next time Cora will be able to show some of the findings.
Yeah, Eddie just pointed out that Lens would be a good reference for KUI as well. I remember looking at Lens sometime in the past as well.
Okay,
it's
great.
Really cool.
Thank you.
Ross just pointed me out a topic that we've been discussing earlier this week. Sorry, Nick, you're done with KUI stuff?
Thanks, yes.
Okay. So there is one other topic that Ross pointed me to. Ross started looking into building kubectl on Windows. I remember that during workshops, I think that was in San Diego, which Sean led, we had one person that appeared with a Windows machine, and at the time we didn't have any good docs around building kubectl on Windows. And if time will be good for us, we're hoping to address that missing part, because Ross has a Windows machine at hand that he will hopefully be able to figure out the missing bits, and we will have to probably document. I started looking at where we are documenting how to build kubectl, and honestly, I had some issues finding them. Not sure if Eddie, you were talking about improving the docs around contributing to kubectl, or you had something particular in your mind that we should be improving?
That may have been merging our CLI experiment website docs with the SIG docs folks. I think they are actually still talking through that. So before we go further on that though, where do we stand on moving kubectl out of tree completely?
I think code-wise, we're ready. So the remaining work is to figure out testing, release. I think that's all basically. Even if and then eventually we will have to figure out how frequently we want to release them. How do we want to support cube versions? Do we want to release sooner? I mean more frequently than cube is. In those cases, we'll have to support 8 different, as in longer SKU window and so forth. But I would leave it after the initial bit where we would actually switch entirely to separate repo, and we would need an agreement from SIG release and SIG testing, how testing is done and how the release is working. So that would be the 2 biggest issues.
And versioning, like which, because of the the version SKU that you mentioned.
Right. That's why for simplicity, I would start with the release cycles and everything would be the same, but they will be done from a separate repo. If we jump that obstacle, we can discuss how we can do it differently. Because I'm guessing the follow-up will be simpler than figuring out how to build and test, because the testing bit will be probably the most complicated one.
Yeah, and that brings back the question that we had when we were talking with Jordan about the delete cap. Are we ever going to make a major version change to kubectl, right? Like, yeah, that definitely is something we have to talk through. Because
Yeah,
I'm sure you have a list of stuff that you'd like to break and change, and I definitely have my list of stuff. So,
yeah, but I'm guessing that even in those cases, we'll have to maintain both of the versions for quite some time.
Yeah, should we commit to a release? Should we say like we want to release kubectl separately for 124?
Yeah, that would be nice. You wanna follow up with a SIG testing and SIG release before we commit to anything?
Yeah, well, it is. Sorry, I should say, instead of commit, like, do we propose we'd like to do this by 124?
I think that 124 is achievable, because that's basically, we are just starting 123. That gives us about 2 releases to figure out and sync with both of those SIGs about the processes and the necessary changes that would have to happen. And in the worst case, we would just slip it to yet another release if something weird pops up. I guess that all the discussion would have to be written down in some sort of a cap, or I don't know, something that will allow give everyone a path to follow, because I think there are others interested in following our path of separating.
Do you think we should add on to the kubectl staging cap or start a completely new cap?
No, I think we could probably reuse that one.
Okay.
I don't see any reason why we would create another one. The or although maybe, or I don't know. Probably both would work.
Okay, I'll get this on the agenda for SIG release, and just as like a preliminary, like, hey, this is going to happen at some point probably.
Yeah.
I did start thinking about this. Actually, I'm building a Prowl plugin right now to transfer issues between repos, because I feel like we're going to need this for moving kubectl issues out of tree, main repo KK into our own repo. So I talked to SIG testing about that, and we're thumbs up on moving forward. So.
Okay, cool. That's nice. Let me know if you when you're planning to jump on the SIG release or SIG testing calls. I would join as well, and I can provide the necessary details or ask the questions what we're missing.
Yeah, I'll ask Jeremy or Steven, because I think they're introducing the 123 team next time, so maybe the following will be a better one.
Okay, cool. Okay, and with that, last call for any topics, questions.
Yeah, back on the topic about the docs and what's going to happen with them. I'd appreciate being looped into any conversations that are happening around that, because I know, like, Kustomize on our roadmap, we want to do a lot of enhancements to our docs in terms of content. We would like to add a lot of content that we don't have right now, and fix it up a lot. And I think that would be extremely challenging to do if everything was trying to consolidate onto the main Kubernetes.io website, just because we're in a small corner over there. And I think the arrangement that we have makes a lot of sense, and we could even reduce the content on the main website so that we're not maintaining duplicates, and just have mostly a pointer to the fully expanded documentation, whether that's one site for kubectl and Kustomize, or two sites. I don't really feel strongly at this point, but I do think that separation makes a lot of sense. So if we're considering reversing that, then I'd like to be part of the conversation if possible.
Yeah, for sure. I had just assumed that we were fine with having it merged, but that's good to know. Is there a specific, so I understand what you just said, but is there a reason that like, would a redirect, would like customize.io redirecting to the Kubernetes docs solve your issue there, or you really want it separate for velocity? Or
Velocity, I think, is a separate point, which is potentially also legitimate. I don't have experience contributing to the primary website, but I imagine that it's more difficult than what we have today. It's really volume of content and like information architecture that I think would be extremely challenging to do well on the Kubernetes.io website, because that rightfully has a lot of content on tons of different topics, and customize, for example, would be just one little sliver of content. Whereas if we have our own website, we have all of these possibilities for organizing it in a way that makes sense and guiding users through journeys and having a lot of different pages about it. And if you look at where Kustomize is on the main website today, you drill down, drill down, drill down, drill down. And then if you have an entire site's worth of content in that tiny little portal, I just think the user experience that we'd be able to offer to people who are interested primarily in like really diving into the features of Kustomize, I think that would be very difficult to do. If SIG docs have a concrete idea of what that would look like, I'm open to changing my mind, but my reaction is that the amount of content and the level of detail that we'd like to go into on the customized website would be very difficult to integrate into a small corner of the larger site.
Okay, cool. They are, I'll DM you about this. We can go to SIG docs and talk about it. I imagine that they're just going to be like, we can make whatever you want work. They are pretty gung-ho about getting everything under Kubernetes IO docs, but I'll support either way. So I'll get us on their agenda. I'll DM you.
Great.
Last quarter for any last questions, topics? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much, folks. As usual, that was a very nice talking to you all. And see you in next week for SIG bug scrub, if I remember correctly. Thank you all. Bye all.
Thank you.
Thank you.